Good evening, good evening, good evening, and welcome to Couch Conversations with the Doctors. What night is it tonight? It is Monday night. And on Mondays, it's time for Couch Conversations with the Doctors. Health is wealth. As always, we're going to go around and we're going to introduce our esteemed guests that we have here with us in our great panel. Before you start asking, Dr. Mason had to take a hiatus tonight, but he will be back with us on next Monday. Dr. Green is traveling and her flight is late and she won't get in until after we are done. And Dr. Pete is going to stop by as soon as he finishes seeing patients. And Dr. Hampton is actually still seeing patients. He had a tough day today. So we have some great guests with us on tonight who is going to be here. Well, with my colleague who leaves me and goes and have fun in the sun. But nevertheless, he's here with us on Monday nights. That's our very own Dr. Douglas Graham. Dr. Graham, why don't you introduce yourself to everyone?
Thank you, Nikki. I'm a retired physician. I spent 30 years working in the western suburbs and then joined the congressman in his office. It was an absolutely eye-opening experience. It's a real honor and pleasure to be here with my colleagues, and I'll try and answer your questions as best I can.
Outstanding, and thank you so very much. Well, to the man who says I threaten him to be here every Monday night, but he is always on time. That's our physician farmer, our very own Dr. James Miller. Dr. Miller.
You got to say farming physician. Good evening, everybody. I'm Dr. James Miller, and I do like farming. It's to me, it's an important thing that we learn how to grow and produce the things that we need to eat, if not do other things with. Because again, when I grow, I know what's in it. I know what I'm putting in the soil. I know what if there's anything I'm putting on that may be a problem or not a problem. I try to stay away from those things. But I grew up with grandparents who were farmers, and they grew a lot of the things that we ate. And sometimes now when I buy food, it doesn't always taste the same as what I used to remember certain food products used to be like. But yeah, I enjoy gardening in the city, and so I'm a retired physician. As Dr. Graham, I retired in 2019 from the practice of internal medicine, which I had practiced about 40 years, and I'm still trying to heal the community. Though I think that we have a lot of work to do, a lot of things to accomplish, and there's a lot of problems that we need to address. So I'm here tonight to do what I can.
Outstanding. And you know what, Dr. Miller, I thought about you this weekend. I ate some fast food at the restaurant on Friday, and then I went to a dinner, a community dinner on Saturday, who kind of had food out of a restaurant. And Sunday, and my stomach just wasn't right. And Sunday, have you ever just felt like you wanted your own home cooked food? And Sunday I cooked, and I believe that was the best meal I had probably had. And it regulated my stomach back out because my stomach had played games with me those 2 days I was kind of eating out. So I got to go back.
Nikki froze. Yeah, we have to be kind to our body. So remember what it needs and give it what it needs.
Well, maybe while we wait for Nikki to unfreeze, I'll go ahead and introduce myself. And I'm not a farmer, but I really appreciate what farmers produce and the foods they produce. When I was very young, I think I was probably about 11 years old. 12 and 13. My mother sent my sister and I to spend a week at a farm. They had a family friend who had a farm in Vandalia, Michigan. So I spent 2 years in a row. I spent a week in a farm. She had a few cows. It was a chicken farm not too far away, and she sent me to work at the chicken farm during the day. So I worked at a chicken farm, and she had some horses. I had a chance to ride a horse. So I enjoyed the country life, but I am not a farmer. My professional experience, and I have probably close to over 50 years of experience in a variety of fields. Started out in mental health, worked on the west side of North Lawndale as a community mental health worker for the city of Chicago. Fast forward, I did some work in education. I managed a federal program in a parochial school, actually in North Lawndale, St. Francis Cabrini School. I was over the kindergarten through third grade for about 5 years, worked for the Archdiocese. I went back to the health department in 1980, developed city's chronic disease program, then left and went and worked at 3 different hospitals. First was University of Illinois. Then after that, I went to Mount Sinai. And then after Mount Sinai, went to Rush. Then left there, went back to the city health department where I was an assistant commissioner initially for chronic disease. And after that, community engagement, and then left there and retired in 2017 as the regional health officer for Cook County, as well as serving as an administrative law judge. And not only am I not a farmer, I'm not a doctor. So, LaMonica, I don't think we know you.
Yes. Well, I guess I'm supposed to be the special guest.
Okay.
You
Well,
look special.
thank you. Well, my name is LaMonica Jones, and I am a registered nurse at the University of Chicago Medical Center. I've been a nurse for 18 years, and 13 years was being at the University of Chicago, and specializing in women's health. And as far as farming goes, only thing I could tell you is my grandparents always grew their own food, and I love those greens that my grandma used to grow. So, and they do taste different as opposed to going to the store.
All right. Well, I had a few tech difficulties here, so I see that I'm back. I want to say hey to Sister Bonnie, who is here. Bonnie Smetley is here with us. She says, good evening to everyone. Dorothy Murphy is here, and she says, evening all. Judge Marianne Jackson is here, and she says, good evening to all. Audrey J. Cox is here, and she says, good evening just as well. Well, did we get the opportunity to Dorothy Murphy is here, and she says, happy Nurses Week. To any colleagues on board, my 50th year anniversary for nursing and cooking at Cook County and at St. Xavier. You are absolutely right. Happy Nurses Week. That's why we have on one of our great smiling nurses here tonight. Well,
Thank
Joe, Joe, you introduce yourself.
Yeah, everybody had a chance to introduce themselves. We did that while you were gone. I also want to wish all the nurses, and particularly the Black nurses and the African American nurses and the minority nurses, happy Nurses Week. I think it's May 6th through 12th. I know and work with a lot of nurses in my career. Currently on the board of Cook County Health, and nursing is an important part of what we do. And I want to send a shout out to all the nurses at Cook County Health. My aunt was a nurse, and just a short story. My mother was gravely ill when I was young, probably around the time I was 11 and 12. And my sister and I were actually sent to live with an aunt in Chatham, which was an interesting experience. Moving from Woodlawn to live in Chatham, it's the first time I ever was in a house with a finished basement in my life. So it was just like it was strange. But anyway, my mother was gravely ill. She was in the hospital. She had had surgery on her lungs. A lung had collapsed. She was probably facing death. And my father, out of an enormous amount of concern, actually went to the hospital, and against medical advice, actually, he secreted my mother out of the hospital. He took her out of the hospital and took her to my aunt's house, who was a nurse. and it was my aunt who nursed my mother back. She stayed there for over a month, and my aunt nursed my mother back to health. So I credit, and I told other people this publicly, that nurses hold a very special place in my life, because my aunt, who was a nurse, saved my mother's life.
That is a very sweet story. They are
my Aunt Charlie Mae Alexander.
Oh, all right. Nurses are little angels. And Miss Dorothy, you don't look a day over 17. So what do you mean by it's your 50th year anniversary? Well, Congressman.
Well,
go right ahead.
You know, as the conversation ensued, we can't live without nurses. And of course, we can't live without food. So we can't live without farming. many people in urban America, I did grow up on a farm. My parents were farmers. My grandparents were farmers, and we grew food. But I always appreciated the fact that my mother, we had the most gorgeous flower garden I've ever seen anywhere in the world. And my mother just simply loved it. I mean, you would wake up in the morning and walk out on the porch and just look at the flowers all over the yard. And it would give you a feeling of a different day. And even songs about flowers in the garden. I come to the garden alone, while the dew is on the roses. And it would start your day. I mean, people didn't have much money. They were low income, they were poor. People struggled for life, but we always had this great garden. If you stepped on one of the flowers, of course, you wouldn't do that again. I mean, that you knew the names of all the flowers. And it was just, and I think that's one of the reasons why when I talk about aging and I talk about individuals who've gone through a different period of living, I give so much credit to that generation. I visited a lady's home last week. She was 100 years old and she was having a birthday party. She was in great shape. She lived on North Laurel, not far from Lake Street. And she must have had about 50 or 60 people who came to visit while I was there. I mean, and she was talking, laughing, taking photographs, hugging, and kissing. And so, this business of aging, I always say that you can determine the greatness of a society by how well it treats its young, how well it treats its old, and how well it treats those who have difficulty caring for themselves, people who are disabled, people who have disabilities, people who have special needs, people who can benefit from the assistance of others. I don't think we do enough for either one of these population groups. And we ought to find ways, and we are finding ways. So I look forward to the discussion about aging and what that really means. We used to have a gentleman, Mr. David Benz, who chaired our disabilities committee. And he always said he was not disabled, that he didn't have any disability, that he was just physically challenged. He was blind. He came to every meeting. I mean, he had his walking cane that he would use to peck. And so I guess the whole point is that life becomes whatever it is that individuals endeavor to make it. You don't have a lot to say about how you got here, but you can say a great deal about what goes on while you are here. So thanks to all of you for this discussion. let's get it on. The blues singer said, let's get it on. You know? So
Well,
right up,
Joe,
thank you.
lead us in discussion.
Well, a couple of things. It is Older Americans Month, and I've heard about that, but I really didn't know much about what Older Americans Month was. But I did find out, and I took a look. Older Americans Month has actually been in place for a number of years, and it's an opportunity to actually celebrate uh, older adults. And actually, I'm going to read from a proclamation that Governor Pritzker sent out uh, actually on last Thursday. May is Older Americans Month, a time to celebrate the nearly 2.9 million Illinoisans aged 60 and older and the many ways they contribute to support and benefit from their communities. The 2024 Older Americans Month theme, selected by the Administration for Community Living, ACL, excuse me, is powered by connection, focusing on the profound impact that meaningful connections have on older adults' health and well-being. Older Illinoisans form the bedrock of communities across the state, said Governor J.B. Pritzker. This Older American Month, we celebrate them and reaffirm our commitment to promoting connection and health in their best years. So, this may be an opportunity to talk about things we could do. Got to put my phone on mute. Forgot to do that. And so let's talk about things we can do to promote the health of older adults. And maybe some of my colleagues might want, particularly the physicians, talk about that, things that promote health things. Yeah, put on do not disturb, but my phone is still ringing. So, and so I'm going to turn it over to one of the two doctors, and I'm going to go with Dr. Graham because alphabetically he would come first.
So I think it's a very, very interesting time we're in because there's been so much research about this. And the two areas that I really like to address are exercise, physical exercise, and mental exercise. Both of whom, used in moderation, can really help you maintain and improve the quality of your life. I'm not talking about going to the universal weight, to the gym, using the weight machines. We're really talking about low impact activities like walking, maybe riding a bike, things of that nature, on a regular basis, a certain amount of time every day, and things that keep your mind alert and active, like puzzles, games, things of that nature, really help you maintain your level of function and the quality of life during your years. Now, I'm not going to neglect diet because this has been a forum for diet, and healthy eating will also make a big difference too. And at that point, I'll turn it over to Dr. Miller.
Well, I'll jump in and start saying a couple of things on that. As our bodies age, um, there's certain things that do change, and so we have to, we recognize that you're not the same when you're 70 as you were when you were 25, and so you're still the being, but your system, your cells, they function differently. We don't walk as fast, we don't move as fast, and so things slow down. I always like to say that for the most part, as we get older, we move over to the far right lane, the slow lane, because in the fast lane we may get there's a lot of speeding over there, so we don't want to get ran over, so we move over to the slow lane, and I think that so what Dr. Graham talked about is things that older people can do for themselves in terms of diet, in terms of the exercise. But I want to hit this from a different perspective. And that is this: is that I think that society in general needs to honor its obligation to those people that were older, because they came, they made ways, they paved ways, they prepared, and when they turn things over to us, the next generation, in the sense that they moved over and they allowed younger people to run the businesses and to do things that younger people do. But we need to make certain that, number one, we don't put them out to pasture. They're still functioning beings, and that's important. We talk about, I don't want to put older people at the table and say, now, you, in order to keep your mind busy, you use do the crossword puzzle every day. No, they need to have active things that they can do in their lives that is useful, meaningful, and so I think that we as a society have to make certain that we take that into consideration and not try to to honor them and be respectful, but at the same time allow them to continue to contribute. Because what I found is that in them is a wealth of information, a lot of wisdom. And wisdom doesn't isn't something that you can just read a book and get. It is something that people have experienced and they've watched and they've seen, and it's something that comes with living and with time, and so I think that we need to continue to take advantage of that wisdom ourselves, and at the same time allow them to continue to be a part of our society. What I used to try to do is I used to try to connect young people with older people. When I was in practice, we try to get a group of young people, say, listen, I want you to go to the nursing home, and and we would form a connection. We call it the grandparenting connection, and for the young people to go and to be with them, to talk to them. And this was beneficial for both groups. It was beneficial for the young people because they could then learn about some things that they have not seen in life. And it's good to know where you're going. It's good to know what's on the road that you're headed down, because if you don't know, and you're riding in a fast lane, bad things can happen. But if you know what to expect.
It must be that government Wi-Fi.
What did you say, Danny? I don't know if I heard you.
That must be that government Wi-Fi.
Yeah. I want to pick up. I want to pick up on something you said, Dr. Miller, because it seems like you're frozen now. I mean, there may be some with your end. I think you froze for a minute, but you talked about being at the table.
Maybe someone, hold on, maybe someone is listening to something else at the same time. I don't think it's coming from any of us.
You're going to throw all that into one pan.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm going to try to jump back in again and talk about being at the table, because it reminded me of something that I once heard. If you're not at the table, you may be on the menu. And so there are a lot of tables that we do need to be at. And we have been intentionally left away or asked, not even invited to the table at some time. So we may want to revisit this idea of having seniors and others at the table when decisions are being made. But
Well, let me tell you, I
LaMonica's,
don't like
go ahead,
to
Danny.
give a lot of personal experiences. And I guess some people are just fortunate or blessed, more fortunate than others. I live with a woman who is older than I am. So I won't say what her age is, because ladies don't always like to tell their ages. Of course, she is retired, but she runs a couple of organizations herself. She chairs the trustees or the stewards at her church. She is the record keeper for my political uh, committee, and you have to send in the reports and do all that stuff with regularity. She is very active with her sorority, and she's active with a whole bunch of other stuff. And we basically do all she cooks. She does the laundry sometime, put stuff in the, I don't do it, in the washing machine and get it washed. And so I think attitude is a great deal of whatever it is that people, yeah, she doesn't move as fast that she drives her car. Sometimes she puts it in the garage. Sometimes she parks it in the driveway. Or if she comes in too late, she'll park it behind me. Then I got to move it in the morning when I leave. So I guess it's either a being blessed or caring for one's self. I mean, she's had some medical challenges. Matter of fact, she broke her ankle Christmas Eve and had to go through the whole process. So, and when I go to nursing homes and I visit nursing homes, I go in there sometimes on Sunday afternoons where they got a piano and we have a little conversation and somebody who can sing, do a little singing. And I don't think I can go in a nursing home or a senior building around the community where I live that I don't know a bunch. I was at one the other week and there were two people in the meeting who one was 103 and one was 101. And they did more talking than anybody else there. It was at the senior suites. These things are kind of real. And so there are people, I think, who take advantage of all the things that they hear about. And I think there are lots of other people who get stuck at certain places. And that's when I go into senior buildings, I make an announcement that I didn't bring no gifts. I mean, no, I ain't got no gifts, but we came to talk issues and talk about making sure that Social Security does not get cut. Uh, Making sure that resources and many of the people are up on it and they know as much or more about it than I do. And I enjoy those kind of meetings much better than I do a whole lot of others because I think people sell older Americans short. And because many of them may not be cutting the rug, and they cut the rug too. That they may not be doing that. But I think we just owe the population group that's older than we are so much until I never make a speech, Harley, without mentioning my parents as being the generators of whatever it is, whoever it is that I am, and that whatever I am, a great deal of that is because of them and what they fed into me. And that gave me some foundational leverage. something to build on. So that's obviously a favorite group of mine, older Americans, senior citizens.
Well, I was frozen and then we had some other stuff going on, but hopefully I've gotten this internet connections together. LaMonica, I think you were trying to say something too.
Well, I just wanted to add, well, when it comes down to mental health, the benefits of exercising and physical activity is, it really enhances your mood, your overall emotional well-being. You want to reduce the feeling of feeling depressed and different stresses in your life. It helps improve your sleep, things like that, and keeping your mind sharp. So we definitely want it's very important and beneficial to get your exercise and different activities, and even sitting down and reading books and exercising your brain. We want to keep those things going because, yeah, I love my older community. I love seniors. I love working with them. So you definitely want to always, always just try to exercise, keep your body moving, keep your joints oiled up, as you can say, keep them going because if you don't use it, you lose it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
Absolutely.
some yeah,
Oh, go ahead,
in
Joe.
some respects, I think with the exception of LaMonica, everyone here is an older American. I did look at the definition. It says it's people over the age of 65. And so I think there are only two people here that don't meet that description. But I also know that people can join AARP at 50 years of age. So maybe that bar is moving and shifting. The other thing, and I've said this before, and it's really an interesting paper I read from the Stanford Center on Longevity, and the paper was written maybe about 2 or 3 years ago. But it said in the next 25 years, people over the age of 100 will be commonplace. And we've all probably seen what what appears to be an explosion of people that are 80, 90, and moving on into 100 and well into 100. And I've been telling people, and this is from a public health standpoint, there are only two areas of the population where you'll experience growth. That's the beginning, that's babies being born, and people living longer. And we have made significant improvements in health and healthcare that allow people to live longer, live healthier, live fuller lives. That is the good thing. But also one of the things that they talked about in terms of and the governor's proclamation mentioned this, but also in looking at information about older Americans Month, there are two things they look at. One is this idea of health promotion, but there's also this issue of isolation and how sometimes older people become isolated. Sometimes because they're no longer as ambulatory as they used to be, so they don't get around as much, and they spend more time at home. But we do want people to go out and be active and be engaged. So maybe some people could talk to about this issue of older Americans in isolation. And if they know groups or organizations that maybe people could align themselves with, it might be helpful to share some of that information.
You know, you mentioned the governor twice, and I learned something about him yesterday. I happened to attend the same church yesterday that the governor attended. And so we were at church together. And of course, after the preaching and that kind of thing, there was a bit of conversation. And the governor mentioned his parents, that one had been gone for 52 years and the other one for 42 years. And I didn't know that about the governor's life and the governor growing up. But I must confess that that added another little feeling about the governor that I have just from a personal vantage point that he mentioned his parents in the conversation at the church where we were worshiping on yesterday. And I think this business of remembering and recalling and not forgetting, and I think we don't use our senior population enough in terms of conveying to younger people what life for them was like. Somebody's about to give me an award for something. They asked me to, make some statements about who I am. And the first thing I thought about was Langston Hughes and the poem that he wrote, that mother talking to her son. And she said, now, well, son, let me tell you, life for me ain't been no crystal stair. It's had a lot of tacks and a lot of holes in it. No carpet on the floor. Threadbare. But I keep on coming. I keep on doing what I got to do. But just you remember that life for me ain't been no crystal stair. And I think trying to convey to younger population groups that individuals are who they are, what they are, not always because of, but oftentimes in spite of. And we certainly try and change things to become the because of. But we need to know as much as we can know about the in spite of. And most of the people that I've known who manage to become who they became put a great deal of self into it. And if they had not put a great deal of self into it, I don't think they would have become what they are, nor who they are, and do what it is that they do. And I'm not saying that we're not conveying that, but I'm not sure that we're conveying enough of it to make the kind of differences that we want to make. Uh, we're getting ready to have a conference with African American boys and men. And we know that when we talk about social disorganization, or when we talk about quality of life indicators, and of course, I notice when you go into the nursing homes and senior buildings, most of the individuals who are still there are female. There are very few men. There's always a very disproportionate number. There are 20 people in the room. In all likelihood, 18 of them are female. And there may be two guys around because they've already died. I mean, that's the basic thing. They already gone. And so helping that population increase quality of life for themselves, I think, is one of the big challenges of Black life.
Absolutely true. Maybe it's just I think it's just it's part of the circumstances that some of the older Black men had to face, and so they learn alternatives to the usual way of receiving health care. And so oftentimes they don't present themselves for the kinds of preventative care and those things, and they often wait until something is wrong before they decide to visit a physician. And I always had had a running struggle with my older male patients in terms of that kind of thing. Is that don't wait until you falling apart because then it's going to be you make my job a lot harder than if I saw you before things started happening, and that that you need to. And I would go to talk about things that they understood very well, and most of them own cars, and so we talked about maintenance and where how that was important. They understood that. um, but I think enough for that the all the women seem to understand that they need to, and they do present themselves for care a lot faster and more so than do the older black men. And so we've been trying continually try to do that in terms of also recognizing changes that they need to make. I mean, for some reason, men tend to be a lot more stubborn. Whatever it is that whatever we are set to do, it's hard to change our mind. We get on a point. Women seem to be more flexible in terms of changing what they eat and changing their lifestyles to accommodate and improve their health. It used to be that they would talk to guys and they would be eating the same thing that they used to eat when they were, doing construction work. Now they're out there sitting home all day. You're not burning it off, so you don't need those same number of calories, and you don't need that same kind of food because you are not going to burn it off. You're going to store it, and then if you store it, that creates more problem for your health. So yeah, that's so the numbers that we see in terms of longevity is affected by that, and we know that especially black men that we live much. Our life is not as long as black women, and so we need to make certain that we take care of ourselves better. We try to make certain that we don't just wait until symptoms appear before we started looking and making certain that we are taking care of properly. That problem that a silent problem that they address before they become before symptoms occur.
And
Well, Dr. Miller, I just want to thank you for admitting that men are more stubborn than women. So thank you so much, Dr. Miller, for that. I heard it from your mouth. We have two really quick questions.
Yeah, Nikki, I don't know if it's really stubborn, but we do have a different approach to things than women do. And one of the things that my colleagues and I, we formed an organization, Dr. Mason and several other people, Dr. Eric Whitaker, years ago, called the Tupelo Institute. And our focus was men's health, black men's health. For the most part, we did a series of health events. And one of the things we used to say all the time, there was a small group of, and I first heard people at Project Brotherhood, a Black Men's Clinic in Woodlawn, talk about this, that men take better care of their cars than themselves. Men don't put cheap gas in their car. I remember when I used to wash my car, but now I'm too lazy to wash my car, I go to the car wash. But when I used to wash my car and I go to the drive-through car wash, I would see people there with cars, and I was wondering why they would even take it to the car wash because it didn't look like something. But even if you got a car and you got a raggedy car, you're going to keep it clean because it's your car and you take pride in that. And if we took the same pride in our bodies and our health, and that's what Dr. Miller's talking about, we wouldn't find ourselves in the situation we're in. And because there are a lot of things that could be prevented, but the steps you have to take, and some of them we've already talked about. But I'm going to stop and throw it back to Nikki because I know we got about 9 or 10 minutes left, and there may be some topics that we haven't discussed, or there may be some questions been raised that we may need to answer.
Well, I'll ask a question about it.
Okay, there we go. I don't know. Go ahead.
And my question is, do men lose interest, or is an extension of machoism? I find it very challenging sometimes to draw from men whatever it is that they're thinking, if they're thinking anything.
Well, I think, yeah, but
Yeah,
sort of, we teach young boys that they need to be rough and tough, that they need to be rugged, that that they shouldn't cry, that they should be, that they should be able to take it. They're a man, and that men don't don't sob, and men are not soft. Men are hard, and these are probably not good things to teach them. They're human beings. They're people, and they have the same emotions as women. Yeah, you may respond in certain situations a little bit different, but I think that it's to your better, it's to your betterment if you respond and not really see yourself as you have to be macho, you have to be strong, and that you can't you can't have pain. You know, I mean, I recall many times in my practice, in my past practice, that when I saw a person who had a problem, and the problem was really, just far advanced, and I would say, why? He said, well, it didn't bother me. The mass didn't bother me, so I didn't bother it. You know, well, but it don't belong there. You should recognize that, number one. You know, but so a lot of times, men tend to think that if it don't hurt, well, there's two things that men used to say. If it don't hurt and it don't stop me from having sex, I can handle it. So
yeah. One of the things that we really talk more about now than we ever have before, the gender roles, and that's what Dr. Miller's talking about. I was raised to be a man. From the time I was a little boy, I was raised to be a man, and I was told what being a man means. Part of that is being impervious to pain, because if you get hurt, you're supposed to suck it up. You get knocked down, you're supposed to get up. If you get hit, you're supposed to hit somebody hard. That's what being a man is all about. And then on the other hand, we wonder, why do men act the way they do? Is because they were raised to be men, to fall into this role and this pattern, which in turn changes the way our communication style, because men and women, and women know this as well as men, communicate differently. Sometimes I can be in a room full of women, I don't know what they're talking about. And some of the topics they talk about are really not of interest to me,
That's
because
plural talk.
if you're talking about sports, then I'm. But don't start talking to me about shopping, and don't ask me to go shopping, because I'm not I'm not good at shopping. I go to buy. I don't go to shop. I don't go to look. I don't want to touch. I don't want to try on things. I go to buy things. If I'm going shopping, I'm going to buy, not look, and then go to 3 or 4 stores to figure out which item I like the best, and then go back to that store. So there's significant differences, and
They
they're
call that
really
bean count.
based upon this idea of gender and gender roles.
Well, I was listening to Jerry Butler earlier today, and Jerry was teaching what being a man meant. Jerry was the chairman of the health committee at the county for many, many years. And he had this song he was singing, Boy, I see you sitting out there all alone, crying your heart out because the woman that you love is gone. But you gotta be a man, you gotta take a stand because only the strong survive. And so, this business, I'm not even sure we're teaching this business of being strong anymore. I'm not convinced that we're doing that. That somewhere that has fallen down a bit, and trying to figure out what to do. I mean, it is challenging to try and figure out how we change these statistics, and how we especially if we keep saying that we're searching for equity, or we're searching for equal status,
Right.
equal opportunity. equal treatment. Uh, that's what we say. I don't know how much is that's what we do. I think we say a lot that we don't do, and finding that's why when I'm looking for, say, programs to try and direct money to say about doing something that's going to impact kids, if I get the impression that they're going to be doing something directly with young people, then I'm more likely to say put the money there than just putting the money somewhere they're going to talk about what ought to be happening with young people. I mean, we spend a lot of time talking about what ought to be happening, but then I think it has to be as direct. And so when I see a group that's working with young people, and I've got a choice about directing money, I will direct it to them rather than a group that's going to be talking about it but not doing
Outstanding. Well, we got a couple quick questions. Um, One, a young lady in the chat or a young lady in the inbox says, "Thank you, Congressman Davis, for making the statement of we don't know what they're teaching today. I am wondering what our young men have become. No one is taking a stand." So thank you so very much for that. I have another comment that says, "I am not an older American. I consider myself as a seasoned American. I am a blossoming, vibrant 80-year-old that works out every day and does all the great things I need to do. And there may be some gray on the top, but there is still a lot of fire in the furnace. My question to the doctors is, I don't sleep as much as I used to, and I'm unsure if I really need the sleep. Is this something medical?"
Here to Dr. Graham.
I think that's hard to know. I think it's not an uncommon experience for people as they get older. In reflecting on my father, who lived quite a while, he had most of his trouble sleeping when he was no longer actively working. And so it's nice that you have the physical activity, but I guess my question is, are there other activities that you could be involved in that will help you so that you'll have some peace of mind when you try and sleep at night?
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with that. I think that that is that sleeping seemed to be a problem of especially older people who are not that active, less active in terms of what they're used to. The days are not filled, so they have time to sit and think. And the problem is that with thinking is that once your mind get gone, it's hard to turn it off. Not that but it takes in order to for the most part, you either got to be real tired or you got to be relaxed to go to sleep. It's difficult to sleep when you're wound up and you're not relaxed, unless you're just extremely tired and you just fall it. You get in bed. You've been working hard. You've been doing something that has really worn you out, and you'll fall asleep. But even then, you tend to have periods where where you wake up. So sometimes it has to do with how much what you're doing, and also if you're not active, maybe you tend to sit around during the day, and if you're napping, you maybe getting sleep is interrupted sleep, but you're getting your body is resting, so you might not really want to sleep as much at nighttime. But I think trying to keep a particular pattern of when you go to bed to try to keep those things regular will probably help you with being able to sleep. Because when you start to changing, it's almost like you're kind of fooling your body in terms of when are you supposed to do something. And body needs a schedule, and so if you're able to keep that schedule, it tends to work better in terms of getting to sleep and waking up. In the time that you wanted to wake and time that you wanted to sleep.
Yeah, yeah. I just want to say a couple of things about sleep and older Americans. One is 20% of older Americans do have some challenges with sleeping. It could be hormonal. And with men specifically, since we do have a prostate and it tends to grow as we get older, men have to go to the bathroom typically 1 to 2 times a night. So if you go to sleep and you get in bed and you got to get up in the middle of the night and go to the bathroom and then you go back to sleep and then you got to get back up and go to the bathroom, you're less likely to get the recommended 7 to 9 hours of sleep a night. And so there are some things that happen as we get older, and some of those are physical, some of those are hormonal, that cause us not to sleep as soundly. So you could be in bed for 7 to 9 hours, but you're not getting quality sleep. You're getting some sleep. Some of that is quality, what they call, and I won't get a REM, rapid eye movement sleep, REM sleep. That's the best sleep you could get when you're dreaming. And most people don't even remember they dream, but people dream all the time they sleep. They just don't remember what they dreamed about. So 7 to 9 hours is what's recommended in terms of sleep. And there's this thing called circadian rhythm, and we all have one. That's our wake sleep cycle. And so that varies from people. And it's really interesting. I won't get into it in detail. But if you worked nights for most of your career, you don't sleep well at night because your body is adjusted to being asleep during the day as opposed to being asleep during the night. So there are these other changes that take place. So that may not answer the question, but give people a better idea of what we're talking about.
Well, I
Outstanding
like
one.
to sleep anytime.
Well, I would like to add too, what you can do maybe to help you to sleep as well is check your surroundings, your environment. Make sure there's no television. Make sure you cut off all electronics before you possibly go to sleep because they can keep you up. Try to relax your mind. Also, if it becomes a problem, you might want to look into getting a sleep study. Do you have sleep apnea, things like that? So those are different things that you can also do to help with sleep.
Outstanding. Well, Natasha Hall says yes, getting quality sleep is rough. Our last question that I'm going to take, which is kind of funny. The gentleman says, I have several brothers. Some have passed on. My other brothers, some are very ill. I am the only married brother. My wife says that I've lived longer because I'm married. Is that true?
Yes.
Well, if he had, assuming that he had a marriage that didn't require excess stress. I mean, if you have a marriage filled with stress, it might shorten your lifetime. But if you had a marriage that has been a situation where the two of you have shared things and you've been able to add to each other. Those certainly they definitely I think it definitely helped to prolong your life and your happiness and your health as well. People we are social beings, and being social, it's hard. Being alone is difficult, and so one or two things tend to happen when you're alone. Either you become isolated, or you tend to do things to try to occupy time in ways that are probably not so natural for the body. Whether you're drinking, whether you're doing other kinds of things that is harmful to you. But people that have a partner that they can share with, they can talk to, they can discuss with, they can. I think that was a healthy things, and it create a degree it definitely, I think, add to our mental health as well as our physical health. Sharing, that's an important thing.
Yeah, and I'm going to be brief. And you did talk about isolation, but if you do have a partner, you're not isolated. At least you have somebody to talk to. Even Robinson Crusoe was looking for somebody to talk. He was talking, in the movies, he's talking to coconuts and animals and plants. That we are social beings. We need to have other people around us. And as we get older, particularly if you're single or you're and used to being independent, you become more isolated and more independent, which probably is not the best thing in terms of longevity.
Oh, wow. Well, Natasha Hall says, I believe married men do live longer because they have someone to help keep them in order. uh, Congratulations and happy Nurses Week to Flo Strong, who is an outstanding nurse. Over at the VA, Flo says true research proven this theory years ago. And just so you know, sir, there is a study, a couple studies, the Mayo Clinic, the NCBI, and also Health and Harvard Education says studies after studies show that married people eat better. They even are less likely to smoke and drink excessively. All of these behaviors help explain why married people tend to live longer. However, men married to women tend to live longer and have more longevity of the benefit of being married to a woman. Their benefit is more substantial than the benefit of the woman being married. So just want to let you know that, yes, sir. Your wife was right. It is because you are married. Flo also says marriage studies were performed within the VA system, as I recall, many, many years ago, and married men live longer because of the nosiness of their wives. We report what we see to the healthcare team. Outstanding. Well, let's get ready to start your Until Next Mondays. Doug, what's your Until Next Monday?
So I've been thinking about this conversation, and especially about the seasoned population. And what I'm thinking is that we have two times in our lives where we're especially vulnerable. That's during when we're born in our infancy and as we get older. When we're younger, our body's defenses are just beginning. We haven't been exposed to everything that we need to be exposed to. And that's why there's special vaccinations for children. As we get older, our ability to fight off things declines. Not because we wanted to, but that's just how the body ages. And so that's why there's always these campaigns to get flu shots and shingle shots and pneumonia shots. So as part of it, the seasoning, these are things that are very helpful to keep you healthy and active and alive.
Outstanding, and thank you so much. Well, Dr. Miller, you're Until Next Monday.
Well, I had the advantage of having grandparents around as I grew up, and obviously they were older people, and I found that they had a lot of time to do things that my parents didn't have time to do with me in terms of sharing with me. I mean, my parents shared time, but there were times that my parents had to do things that parents do in terms of earning a living and doing those things. My grandparents didn't have children in the house anymore, so there were times that they shared with us and were surrogate parents. And so, so those are advantages. And I think that as a society, if we can make that connection work a little bit better, I think that maybe some of these problems that we have today with our youth we'd probably be better off by sharing. Maybe the I think young people can learn a lot. I still share with people that are older than me because I still learn. When you stop learning, I think you're just about done. But I still learn from people because there's nobody that knows everything, that has experienced everything, and I can still learn from somebody else. And so, and when you're young, you don't know very much. So I think it's a good thing to share and to listen to those people that have had those experiences, who walk that walk and travel that road that you have to travel. They can give you some information, some wisdom that if you listen to it and take heed to it, it'll make your life a lot better and will avoid some of the pitfalls and that people tend to make some of the mistakes. It might sound boring, but believe me, it's valuable and useful. I can't just can't really even today, I think of things and I'm in situations, and I remember things that my grandparents told me in terms of how to deal with things, whether it be a person or a situation. And so we still, learn from people. And I think that the people that know, you can't really learn from somebody that don't know. If you don't know, you can't teach anybody. But if you know, and those people who've had experience can teach. And so I think that we need to make certain that we respect our elders and let's utilize them to for their wisdom and their knowledge in terms of, because I think they enjoy sharing that with us, and let's allow them to share. Let's make ourselves available, and we benefit, and they benefit and happy with sharing.
Outstanding. LaMonica, I know you were having some tech difficulties. Can you hear us?
I can hear you. Yep, I'm having technical difficulties.
Okay, LaMonica, you're until next Monday. What would you like to leave the viewers with to know from you until next Monday?
Stay healthy. Um, Also keep up with your vaccinations, your screenings. Um, Go to the doctor. Stay keep yourself motivated and moving. And I guess that's pretty much it. Always get screen, 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 screen. Prevention, prevention. Exercise, exercise.
All right. Thank you so much. Well, Joe, you're until next Monday.
Well, I've got two, and Congressman Davis talked about diversity, equity, and inclusion. I'm going to use a different term, and I actually looked at it because I want to know the real definition of justice. So I looked at Cornell University's law school's definition, and they had three, but this is the one that I'm going to share. Justice is the ethical, philosophical idea that people are to be treated impartially, fairly, properly, and reasonably by the law and by the arbiters of the law, that laws are to ensure that no harm befalls another, and that where harm is alleged, a remedial action is taken, both the accuser and the accused receive a morally right consequence merited by their actions. So I think to sum up DEI, part of what we're talking about is justice again, and justice denied is justice deferred. And in terms of healthy aging, I found a quote, and this is my until next week, and it's for everybody. Youth is the gift of nature, but age is a work of art.
I
Mm.
love it. I
Amen.
love it. I, hey, I'm with you. Amen. I love it. Well, just want to remind everybody, as everyone said, make sure you get your screenings, make sure you are up on your vaccines. Want to also invite you to a great event that we will be having in celebration of Older Americans Month on May 17th. That's Friday, May 17th at 10 a.m. from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. The congressman will be hosting a senior expo. So the senior expo, and that information will be placed here in the chat a little later. The senior expo will be at Build Inc. That's 5100 West on Harrison, Build Inc. And we will have a great expo going on from different health screenings and everything that will be there and available for the community with a special focus on our seniors to information seniors may need in reference to home and building repairs, your taxes and how to work with them, mortgage information, and even senior jobs. So we just want to remind everyone to join us for the Senior Expo Friday, May 16th from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. at Build Inc. That's 5100 West on Harrison. Well, I loved everything that you shared, but I want to share one that my dad would say, and that's to always pay attention and listen. I would rather be led around by a seasoned rooster any day than to be drug around by a young chicken that has no direction of where they are going. Remember to use your teeth as a cage for your tongue. You have two ears to listen more than you should speak. Well, Congressman, take us home.
Well, thank you all. I was privileged to attend the funeral of Representative Donald Payne Jr. on last week in Newark, New Jersey. And I was fascinated by how the young people kind of following in the footsteps of their parents. Some of you would remember Mir Baraka, the poet, during the Black activist years and period. Well, his son is the mayor of Newark. Don Payne followed in the footsteps of his father, Don Payne Sr., Cory Booker, who became the mayor of Newark, coming behind the Black activism, of course, is the United States Senator from New Jersey, was a candidate for president of the United States. And it seemed to me that this group of youngsters heeded the callings of the group that preceded or went before them. And I was just fascinated as I took all of that in terms of understanding the role that Newark had played. I mean, there are only a couple of blacks in the country, United States senators. It's only been, I guess, about 10 throughout the whole history of America. And so I would say that these individuals remembered or made use of what their parents and the parents of their growing period taught them. Job said it when he said that man that is born of a woman is here for only a few days. And of course, those days are filled with lots of things, just lots of things. But if you're prepared for them, and what we're really talking about, at least certainly what I'm talking about all the time, is how do you improve the quality of life? And that we're always working for that purpose. And I always say, if you're not, then there's not much reason for you to be here. You know, that somebody else could breathe the air that you breathe, could drink the water that you drink, could eat the food. And so the aging process really should mean that the older you get, the wiser you become. The older you get, the more that you seek to help somebody else move up and move on. And one thing my grandmother used to say is never look down at anybody unless you're looking down to help them up.
Right.
And that also means children, disadvantaged, share the wisdom that you have acquired, and the world will become a better place in which to live.
Absolutely.
So until next Monday, thank you all so very much. We have a very busy week scheduled here, and it's going to be good for me to go and get a little sleep so that I can be young and fresh and full of vigor at 8 o'clock in the morning. Have a good night. And
Good
we
night.
all,
Good night.
yeah, yeah.